Hello and welcome to the Wise Yourself Up podcast. I am your host, Carla, and this is part 2 of me and Maria Rafferty's very special conversation all around women's health. Make sure that you listen to part 1 and this is part 2. Please enjoy. What I wanted to touch on contraception, what really annoyed me when what age was I? 34 when I got the coil out, and not that I had a man to have a baby with, but I was thinking about, prepping my body for a baby. I'm starting to care about fertility rather than just not getting pregnant. The usual stages that women tend to go through. Well, some women. And I rang the NHS to get my coil out. And they were like, right, why are you getting it out? And I said, because I want to increase my fertility. I want to give myself best chance of having a baby, but I'm not going to have a baby now. And they're like, well, sure, it doesn't affect your fertility. And I said, but you don't know that. Why are you giving out false information?
But they don't know.
But they were saying it as a fact.
Yeah.
They were saying that it won't, if they were giving a guarantee.
But they've been told that.
But that's lies.
And there's some women that it won't impact.
But that's what I mean. But you shouldn't give out that information when it's not. It's not true.
It's kind of out of date, and we have to acknowledge that there definitely is a much bigger fertility problem today than there was. Gosh, like even 5 years ago.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's what the figures show, yeah.
I just think, again, we're moving into this thing where, a woman with PCOS or endo or something, sometimes they're only taken seriously when they want to continue a man's bloodline. For want of a better description, that's what it is. We still live in the world that is full of the energy where a woman is here to serve a man and keep his bloodline moving. And you'll see that in the world. And one of the places you see it is like, if there's any gynae problems, come back when you want to have a baby. Or sure, you've had your family, we'll do a hysterectomy. That can happen.
Yeah, but that's really common.
But with men with erectile dysfunction, nobody says, are you trying for a family?
Yeah, I know.
Come back when you want to have a baby and we'll sort it out then.
Yeah, so my granny had her 7th baby, good Catholic woman, and the doctor said that her body wouldn't take another pregnancy, and he was like, we will have a hysterectomy, and she asked the priest for permission. Isn't that mad? But she was only 38 then.
And that was her contraception.
Yeah.
To be fair. I'm just thinking of a poor woman with 7 young babies managing them all by herself, maybe in those circumstances. But this is also, we should go back to the pill, and we have to acknowledge that, I appreciate there's, nothing's black and white.
Yeah.
World would be easier if it was. And I just think that I know that there were women years and years ago that didn't want any more children. They didn't have a choice. They had a husband. They had to do what they had to do, and if they were getting pregnant, they had no say in it at all. So I know when the pill first came out, I know in Ireland, but also in the south of Ireland, but also maybe when it came out in other parts of the world, contraception wasn't legal, but the doctor could prescribe it to a woman for medical reasons.
Oh, like painful periods and stuff?
No, but just wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Oh, right, okay.
She'd be going, please, doctor, I can't have any more babies.
Okay.
I've got 6. I can't have any more. And he'd be like,
give me a break.
Mm-hmm. So they'd be like, okay, we'll put you down for period pain and give you the pill. So it was a wee bit of work. I don't know if they did that in the South or not. I know, but definitely in America, there was states or whatever. I remember learning about that, and that it was a workaround of ways which I can appreciate.
Have we covered fertility? Have you given tips for fertility? That's the number 1 question.
What were they asking?
Get me more fertile, please, for good eggs.
But it's all the same. So they have to do what I'm doing because I want my good eggs. Not that I do not want them impregnated at this age. Absolutely no way. But, and that's the thing. It's all the same. And a woman should always want to be fertile, even if she's not planning on having any children. Yeah. Should she have 6 children and she wants no more? Should she have no children and she never wanted children, doesn't want any? And that's a message that I'd like to get out there as well, is that you always need to take care of your fertility because it benefits your whole body in so many ways.
Yeah, and I think that was scary for me when I realised that I didn't see it as such a vital source of health. Like, I didn't have a period for you and didn't care.
No, but most people most people weren't aware or didn't care, and that's because periods were seen as just a thing for having babies.
Yeah, could you imagine if a man didn't ejaculate, even go a year without ejaculate when they go and get it checked? It's completely different on the two ends.
So it takes a healthy sperm, a healthy egg.
How does she get her? How do we get the sperm healthy?
Okay, but just healthy egg, healthy sperm, and a healthy womb. They're the three aspects.
That's not that easy.
What?
That's not that easy. Right, so there's the three aspects, right?
So what makes a healthy sperm and egg? It's good blood flow around the reproductive area. And
so removing tension from the body, a good balance.
I'll use herbs. There can be stagnation there if there's any pain, if there's any, might not be full on erectile dysfunction, but things might not be operating the way they used to and stuff. Anything that's sluggish. Also, you know, well, I'm going to get on to digestion as well anyway, because you're like, you need the nutrients to feed the egg and to make. So eggs, I see like, in the female egg, I see it like a renovation.
A renovation?
So because they're already there. We're born with all the eggs.
Yeah. So for anyone listening who doesn't know, you're born with all the eggs you'll ever have in your life the day and hour you're born.
And they decrease over time. And they lie dormant. So obviously the female egg quality is dependent on how healthy her mum and dad were the time she was conceived. So they will be lying dormant in the ovary, waiting on their turn to pop out. So we cannot improve the baseline quality, whatever quality they were when she was born. That's as good as they're going to get.
Can't improve the quality of your eggs.
Not really, no. That's why we encourage preconception work. So your little daughters, not really. Whatever baseline quality those eggs are born at, were set in stone. But the thing is, post birth, the quality of the egg can deteriorate due to stagnation
quicker,
or in the area.
So you can preserve the quality.
Or you can bring it back up to its base, to its start off point.
Okay.
So if you've been like, you know, your teens, 20s, drinking, drugs, lots of great sex with different men, not exercising, not watching what you eat, you know, there's a lot of things you can do to increase the blood flow to the pelvic region, and that'll bring better blood, better nutrients, and then also clean up the area. But then where do we get the nutrients from? We get the nutrients from our digestive system. So we have to have really strong digestion.
And is it the Mediterranean diet? I've seen a lot about that.
You do see a lot about that because they've done a lot of work about that, but we don't live at the Mediterranean. So they say the best diet is just real food diet. Old-fashioned food, your meat and 2 veg, eggs. Just ask yourself, the majority of your food should actually be real food. Like not breakfast cereal. And then people think, healthy diet, I'll have Weetabix or bran flakes or something, and you're just going, but that's not actually food. And they don't enjoy it.
They don't enjoy it?
No. So, you know, I always think if you're going to have something, you know, make sure you enjoy it. Don't be wasting.
I think some people do love. I'm not a Weetabix, but I'm like, I have like eggs, or like I would have like a lunch for my breakfast almost. I'm not a cereal person. If I was to have granola, it'd be later in the day. It's like
it's a dessert. Granola is a treat. It's a dessert. It's definitely not a healthy breakfast.
A granola?
No, it's full of sugar.
Well, not if you make your own.
Yeah, well, but still there'd be a lot of sugar in it, because then they have it with the cold yogurt and then cold fruit.
Yeah.
You're just better, as you say, with like a dinner for your breakfast. Nice warm breakfast. This is the thing that gets me, is because people are trying so hard and they're like on the smoothies and juices sometimes, or they're on the salads because they think it's healthy, and they're not taking into account, you know, if you do not have a good environment in your digestive system, you're not going to absorb that food. You're not going to have the energy to break it down. You're not going to absorb the nutrients, and you're not going to be able to transform them around the body. So you can have all the smoothies you want in the world. That's going to end up gunk in the digestive system.
But why is it not being absorbed? Just because it's not warm enough? Is that what you're saying?
It's like, you know, it's when your hand gets really cold, it doesn't really work very well. And if you take food, and this is really important because it's to do with skin and all these problems as well. Like a lot of our problems start in the digestive system. It's not just what you eat, it's how you eat it. And we've really bad eating habits here. And to transform food from one form to another, you have to apply heat.
Yeah.
So I always say to people, it's like if you put like raw meat in an oven and didn't switch that on, it's just going to rot, because it needs the heat to transform it into another form that we can
But I suppose people
eat.
are going to be listening to this wondering why they aren't hot, why their oven isn't on.
What, in their stomach?
Yeah.
Probably because they've injured it from so much cold food and drink and salads,
Okay.
healthy salads. You know, basically for digestion, for our whole bodies, we're mostly microbiome. We're made up of more bacteria than we are human cells. And what we now know that Chinese medicine is based on is having the perfect environment for healthy microbiome. So we have good microbiome and we have bad microbiome, and then we've evil microbiome. Good and bad hopefully should work with each other and keep us on an even keel. I'm not quite sure it's made it fully mainstream. I know people go, oh my gut and everything, take a probiotic, eat more fiber, and you're like, oh my god. It takes a lot more than that. But the microbiome can control our moods. Like literally control our moods. They make you want to sit on the sofa. This is the evil ones. They colonize the body, and they want to change the environment to suit themselves, to optimize their growth. And they will go, feed me sugar. So sometimes people are like, they know what they should be doing, but they can't. And I will have patients with digestive problems, and I obviously give them the herbs to eradicate all the problems. And then they come back and they go, I just don't crave sugar anymore. And I'm like, yeah, because we're killing the bad guys that are craving it. So what I would liken it to, it's like, you know, it's soil, and you have to have it at the right temperature, the right moisture levels, the right amount of air flowing through it for the roses to grow. And with people, and I've just this morning somebody told me she'd spent a fortune on a probiotic that is cold, that you must take out of the fridge first thing in the morning. And it gave her a lot of pain and a lot of cramps and da. And then she's like, 3 days on the ginger water, and she was fine again. So I will say to people that are saying to me, is this a good probiotic or whatever? It's like trying to plant rose bushes in Antarctica. You're going to have to keep planting it every day because it doesn't have the right soil to thrive. It's like us trying to grow a cactus here in Belfast. You know, it's far too cold. It's not going to survive.
Yeah.
So our microbiome is heavily influenced by the climate outside us. And how do we know this? We know this because when we travel, we can have tummy trouble for a day or two whilst we adjust. So I would be massive on digestion, because I think when you get digestion sorted, the rest falls into place easier. And so what can happen if your food isn't being digested? Remember the farmyard here? It kind of turns to gunk and it clogs it up. But what will happen, like a compost heap, the heat rises. So the heat will start to rise, and depending on the person's constitution, if it irritates the lungs, it can give them skin problems. It can irritate the mind, or it can irritate the heart. And then the heavy parts of the gunk will fall down into the pelvic bowl and cause disruption within there.
In terms of their womb and their...
Yeah, the rectum, anything cysts over, like there's loads, but again, it'll be multifactorial as well. There's more than one reason that causes it. So I will always say to people, and I generally have to start people on digestion, and that's why I will say, you know, the ginger water, that people go, I can't believe the difference it makes. And I'm like, but you're just creating a healthier
What
environment.
is ginger water? Just ginger and
It's
water?
just fresh root ginger that you slice and put hot water in and let it brew
That's
few
what
minutes.
I thought it was, just in case it was like a different recipe that you had.
And that's it. You can add lemon if you want, and that's why people are coming back to me going, I can't believe the difference it makes. And I tell everybody about it, and I'm like, yeah, because you're working in sync, giving the body what it needs.
I'm just wondering of like, yeah, so you're saying that it's the cold that they consume that creates the evil, good and bad.
So if you're eating a lot of cold, obviously if me and you had something cold now, would be okay. But if you're constantly, like if you're having those iced coffees regularly.
Like I drink cold water.
Yeah, change it to, but we've already established there's something wrong with your cycle.
Yeah.
Change it. I would never drink cold water. But I will find this with a lot of my patients as well. They're just like, I just can't drink it now.
Okay, yeah, because I know a girl, a friend of mine, did she have kidney stones? I think she had kidney stones, and then she had changed to room temperature water all the time.
So I always boil it first.
Yeah.
and then add a little bit of cold if I need, and then I squeeze lemon in it, or like ginger or mint or something. So what's happening is that you're creating, first of all, the cold isn't ideal, and also it impedes the flow of blood. So it causes constriction. You want to make yourself small when you're cold. Everything tightens up. Your body doesn't function as well. So that's what's happening internally as well. It's constricting the blood vessels. So we're taking the blood away from the digestive system, so it doesn't have as much power and force to digest the food. And then the food will cause obstructions being there as well. So you'll have the food and it's too cold. And then the bad guys, they'll be like, oh, we like it here. But then it gets so cold and everything sticks and stagnates that then it generates inflammation.
Okay.
So when I see people with awful period pains that have inflammation, when I first see them at the start, I'll have to give them herbal medicine to cool down that inflammation, to get rid of the inflammation part. But then underneath it, I know that there's a lot of cold in there, and I have to give them herbs that will really warm them up to get the blood circulating in a healthy way again. I know it sounds really complex when I've had to explain it to you like that, but it's kind of, I suppose I'm doing it every day. It's kind of straightforward. You just want to keep everything moving and flowing. It's like if you have a house with toilets, you want to keep it flushed. You want to keep the air, the windows open. You want to, we know we've got to do that to maintain a healthy house. And this will seem so new to a lot of people, because people are like, but I thought salads were good. I thought smoothies were good. I thought all I had to do was take a probiotic. And you're like, no, you really need to get the internal environment exactly right. But you're correct also in that emotions can cause, an unprocessed emotion will create pockets of nitric oxide, which is a gas, a gasotransmitter within the body. But then you just release it, move it. So basically, to sum up fertility, it's healthy eggs, healthy sperm, and a really healthy lining to the womb. And for good quality eggs and sperm, you need good blood flow around the body, and you need a good strong digestive system, and you need to go to good sleep and good food choices, all of that. But internally, you need a strong digestive system.
Poo once a day.
At least a healthy poo. Then for the lining of the womb, like all the things you do to benefit the eggs will help the lining of the womb, but we're moving more into immune infertility and NK killer cells, and that can be a factor in recurrent miscarriage or recurrent failure of implantation, but also so is male factor. And I can't say that loud enough or often enough. Always consider the quality of the DNA within the sperm when dealing with recurrent miscarriages, because women have a tendency to blame themselves. Or
because that's not tested, is it, the quality of?
Not really, but they moved the goalposts on male fertility. Like in the 80s, so they test its ability to swim towards the egg. It tests the volume, the amount of sperm, and they test their morphology, which is it normal form? Does it have two heads, a big head, a small tail, two tails, three tails, no tails?
Does it kind of have three tails or two heads?
Yeah, but they're not good ones.
Oh, right, okay.
And now it doesn't actually check the DNA. That's a separate, more expensive test. But they're the three tests. So we look at morphology, for example, the normal form sperm, and in the 1980s, if the pass mark was 80%, so if a man had less than 80% normal form sperm, he would have been deemed to have a fertility problem.
Okay.
So then they bring it down to 50%, then they bring it down to 14%, and now in 2010 they brought it down to 4%, maybe 4.5. Yeah. So there are men out there with 95% abnormal, no, 96% abnormal sperm.
Why did that change?
They're fine. I don't know. They just changed. They just moved the goalposts. Yeah. So as you said, there is a male fertility crisis as well in the Western world. It has dropped rapidly over the last 40 years.
And I suppose we can't really tell what makes a woman's egg select a sperm, because that's a big part of the process.
Yes, the egg does select the sperm. We have to remember as well that the sperm has to go through an obstacle course.
Yeah, it is. Fucking, you are a miracle.
I know, I remember watching it and going, I just was overwhelmed with I can't believe I'm surprised
you made it to the end.
I know. So, I was born in the 70s, so it to me, like, it's survival of the species. And that's the overriding factor in life, always survival of the species. The female body is trying to get rid of the shit sperm. It doesn't want it in. What is the point? It's not, the goal is to have the healthiest baby possible. So you know, there's all this, the pH, although it changes to kind of support the sperm, it will be, if there's any weakness there, it'll
So,
die.
am I correct in understanding you that there could be couples listening to this who have been told that the male sperm is fine, but actually it could be still the male sperm is the problem?
Yeah, that's why I refuse to treat women alone. I don't care how fine
That
it
is
is.
a big one, like.
But also I do the emotional work too. But like, that's going to scare men. All I do is put one needle in and it clears the blockages. It's fine. It's very easy to do. But for me, like, you know, men are fine, and then I find that they're sweaty at night. Sometimes people, I ask them, like, do you sweat? Do you sweat
So
normally?
sweating at night. Yes, I'm curious because I know a
No,
lot of
it
men who are
depends.
sweating at night, and I
Oh
want to know
yeah,
what the crack
yeah.
is.
They're just a little bit out of balance.
Okay.
It's not a big deal, but it signifies they're out of balance.
Okay. Because some people talk about soaking the bed sheets.
Yeah, no, that's not right. Nobody should be doing that unless you're sick. Sometimes people are thinking and they don't know the answer, and already then I'm like, oh, you obviously sweat normal. But sometimes people are like, no, I don't sweat. And it's like, yes, somebody has asked me about this, because they've said to people, but I don't sweat, and everybody's like, don't worry about it. So they're like, but I go to the gym and everybody's sweating and my face is just getting redder and redder and I'm not sweating.
That's okay.
No, it's not okay.
Oh.
I mean, it's not life or death or anything, but it just, again, signifies something somewhere in the body's not working. And then the opposite is people are sweating too much. And basically, you know, this is where we don't really talk about this in the Western world, so I don't know how to explain it properly, but basically their fluid distribution isn't correct. There's too much fluid in some areas and not enough in the other areas, and it's not moving through the body the way it should.
Yeah, and I'm always thinking about personality, you know, like if someone won't sweat, they're like, won't let go, and then
But
like...
the other thing is too, because I'm from it's as well, I was grew up surrounded by farms. Again, if you bring it back to the soil, and you can, are you familiar with fields?
Do I look like I'm familiar with fields?
Do I? I know loads about farming. So, you know, you'd have an area of a field that could be a little bit soggy and flooded.
Right.
And you know, the farmer's not going to sow seeds there. He has to tend to that soil.
Okay.
And so that's basically what I'm doing with people internally. I'm like, oh, you have too much sogginess here and you're dry here, so I have to redistribute
Okay.
it. It sounds very technical, but basically, you know, you can do so much by eating good food, moving your body, breathing correctly, getting a good night's sleep, and then people need less help from me. Taking the ginger in the morning. Simple things.
Okay. Menopause time.
Okay, so menopause is a rite of passage. This is another summary for anybody that just sorry if we've lost you, but here's another summary. Treat yourself the way an adult will treat a newborn baby. Routine. Make sure they poo every day. Make sure they get enough sleep. Make sure that they eat more or less at the regular times, and the food is not cold. It has to be at body temperature. They get a little bit of exercise. You stimulate them, but you don't overstimulate them. I'm like, if we could do all that for ourselves.
What's your thoughts on HRT?
So I've already said that I'm quite open to it, but I think you have to get the body to a good place before you take it. And what we do with Chinese medicine is that, like, somebody's now going to come into me and they'll go, I've got perimenopause. And I'm like, is this a new thing? Because nobody ever presented to me with perimenopause until about this last year. And I explained to them, I'm going, okay, so this is just a phase. This is like a name assigned to a time of your life, and it's not a disease. And then I'll ask them questions, and I'll give them treatment and herbal medicine, and I take care of their liver, because their liver maybe has been through a lot. I only treat the person that I see on the day, because there's no point in giving somebody herbs for something they went through 10 years ago. But I am also very aware that has this person, and I'm not hearing this in the conversation. The conversations I'm hearing are basically weight gain. Around
menopause, yeah.
So much about the weight gain. I'm like, okay, we're more than that, but anyway. So I will have to take into account, has a woman been through IVF or not? There's a lot of drugs used in IVF. How many times? Was it successful? Was it not successful? And this is what perimenopause is about. It's about dealing with all the shit you didn't deal with at the time, because you had to be getting on with life. And so if we took a woman who, it's very much in my world, if she went through a fertility issue, okay, number one, the underlying reason why she had the fertility treatment in the first place, was that ever dealt with? Maybe, maybe not.
Okay.
Then we have to consider...
But what if the fertility issue couldn't be identified?
Well, it won't be identified in Western medicine because they don't do enough tests. They just go, egg there, sperm there, tubes there.
Because there's a lot of
infertile.
couples who have been trying for 5 years and told there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to conceive.
But no, what they should be told is we haven't done enough tests. So I will see somebody that has been like, oh, we're unexplained infertility and we're in good health and there's nothing wrong with us. And then I'm like, do you poo every day? No. Well, there you've got a digestive problem. Your rectum's in the pelvic area right next door to the reproductive area. Can you see where it's going here? You know? So I think we should be considering, you know, was a woman given high doses of estrogenic drugs or not? Did she have maybe 4 failed IVFs and then a successful one, and then what can often happen is a natural conception after that, because that can happen. But she probably hasn't dealt with the emotion of those failed IVFs, because you don't have time. You're just like, I need to have my next IVF. So this is the kind of work that I'm doing with women now in their 40s. I mean, they just come in and I do gua sha and put a needle in them, and we're working through a lot of that just with the treatment, and I'm helping them understand that, you know, this is a very powerful time in your life. It can be a difficult time in your life, especially if you try to resist it. But if you work with it, and if you can find even small parts in your week where you can slow down and rest, that will be beneficial to you. And I know women in their 40s now have very young children, and that makes it a lot more difficult. Because when I was growing up, women in their 40s had their families more or less reared. Whereas now people are only having their first baby maybe at 40 plus.
Oh, what's the issue you see in that?
They're exhausted.
Oh, because the hormones are changing?
Yeah. And they're working full time as well, a lot of the women.
Which is a new thing that for women.
So we're not comparing like to like when we go, comparing to our mother's generation. They didn't go through infertility. I know some women did, and they just didn't have children, or they adopted. But, you know, they weren't going through infertility. They weren't going through back-to-back IVFs.
It's such a new world.
It is such a new world, and it is a new level of navigation that we have to navigate.
Because it's along with being the first guinea pigs of contraception and IVF at the same time. There's all this stuff going on.
Yeah, and I just think, and I mean, maybe it's not really going to have much of an impact at all. We just don't know, and I don't want anybody to be scared or frightened about this. But what I would suggest is that we just have it has to be part of the conversation, and we have to maybe, that's part of the baggage that we don't want to be bringing in to our second spring. So with me, and it's not easy. And, you know, you do have to sit down and reflect on your life. And, you know, is it going to be relief? Is it going to be rage? Is it going to be regret? I'm going to guess there's going to be a mix of those things for different parts of your life. And women are doing this even without knowing it. And they're coming up to that age, 50 in their life, and some women are going, oh my God, I've done nothing. All I've done, I've a family, and I've reared a family, and that's it, and I've missed out on so much. And then you're going to have another woman going, I didn't have any children. All I've done is I've worked and I've traveled the world and done all these. And, you know, neither of them are wrong or right. It is just a time where we are going to reflect. And I'm so lucky that I am surrounded by such knowledgeable elders that are passing on their wisdom to me, which is allowing me to pass it on to next people. And if somebody sits and tells these women, you are going to reflect, and you're going to have relief, rage, or regret, and it's normal, and you're just working through it all, instead of getting very deep within it and thinking, have I done something wrong? Is there something wrong with me?
What do you mean in terms of something wrong with you?
No, people would beat themselves up saying with their life choices. Perhaps not everybody, or maybe just one particular life choice. They'll just beat themselves up.
It's also the hand that you get dealt.
There is a lot of that as well. But my point is, we are almost hardwired to have these reflections.
Yeah, of course.
And to look back at this state, but it's all hitting us at once, sort of. And that is when you will start to doubt yourself and question your choices in life.
And you're seeing that like with menopause?
Yeah, well, it's just part of it. Working through the baggage, the emotional baggage.
So all I hear about is the hot flushes and the anxiety.
Yeah, the anxiety, but that would be the anxiety is the low progesterone.
The biggest struggles that I've heard from women going through menopause was just like the anxiety and not being able to sleep and really, really bad hot flushes. Hot flushes,
I mean, the same lifestyle advice that I give for fertility should be applied for perimenopause and menopause. And then I would address it with herbal medicine to cool them down. But like, working with me is hard. You know, sometimes people will message me and go, oh, can I have herbs? Or what herbs will I buy? And I'm going, no, that's not how this works. You know, I work in partnership with women to really make the changes in their life, in their diet, to clear out some of the emotions. They could be on herbs for months. But it's not, I can't just go, oh, here's herbs, you'd be grand. Sometimes I wish that's all I had to do. I know not everybody has the inclination to do that. Not everybody has the time to do that. Or they're not in a situation in life where they are able to do that.
Well, normally they're being called to change, right, for the better in
Yes,
terms
and
of...
it used to be called the change.
Oh,
Do
yeah.
you remember that? You too young.
Yeah,
They used
yeah.
to call it the change. And you're right, you are, it is a time of reflection and a time for going, oh, that just doesn't work for me anymore. And so let me talk to you about estrogen. So, you know, the phase of motherhood, whether you give birth to a child or not, it's about creation, nourishing. It's very much a time of self-sacrifice and putting yourself last, doing the overtime, putting your life and soul into your career.
Doing the land share.
Absolutely, everywhere. And we have the estrogen to keep us doing that, to keep us going. So when the hormones start to fall, we're just a bit like, oh, I can't be bothered anymore. I don't want to do that anymore. And we're not, I don't think we're meant to do it.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Forevermore. So this is where a woman is coming to a stage in her life where she is able to take a step back from the busyness, from the caring for others. We literally bleed. We literally share our blood. We let the blood fall from our bodies out into the earth. That's how much of ourselves we give away during that time. And then when that stops, we should be stopping giving so much of ourselves. And it's a time for a woman to get to know herself and to do the things that she didn't have time to do because she was working or because she was rearing a family or she was creating a community, whatever which way it was. And now it's her time to put that energy back into herself and to flourish.
Yeah, I've heard it's the wisest stage of your life.
It is. It's the prime. It is the prime of a woman's life. When you've done the hard work, you've got the knocks, the bruises, the scrapes, the stories to tell, and you're all the wiser for it. And then your role in life is to share that wisdom with the younger generations. And that's what menopause is, stepping into your power. I mean, listen, somebody could have taken advantage of me and told me lies a hell of a lot easier when I was 21 than they could do now. I'm like, oh, you know, you don't fall for the same stuff.
I know,
because you've got you're easier manipulated when you're in your 20s.
Yeah, I think it's like, for me, I had no confidence really until
you earn it, don't you?
Yeah, and it's just like a rite of passage. There's no
is. And like,
shortcut.
do you see the older women that are living their best lives and they are confident and they're not, I don't know if I'm going to need HRT or not. I'm definitely not going to dismiss it. It will absolutely not be my first choice, but I am not resisting, because you can't resist menopause. I am not resisting this part of my life.
Well, that's where the struggle comes in, isn't it?
It is when you try to resist it.
My dad's mum swears by HRT. It's the education, isn't it? And I think it's more about for people who have taken HRT, they just wish they had been given more information and education on it, which is definitely lacking within the public service and with the NHS.
Yeah, within the NHS, for sure. But for me, as I always say, my bottom line is, whether it's you've got gynae problems, you've got fertility problems, or if it's for HRT, I'm like, optimize the health of your body first.
Yeah.
And then take whatever it is you need.
Look after yourself. There was one lady who wrote in, she's been through fertility problems, and I think she had an ectopic pregnancy. And she says that she hates her womb, and will she ever reconnect with it again? How can she heal?
I think she will, because she wants to. And she has recognised that there's something not quite right there. And you can't heal from a place of hate. So I totally understand why a woman can be so disappointed in herself and so angry with her womb, whether it's caused her pain, inconvenience, loss, failed to get her pregnant, whatever. Like, she has every right to feel how she feels. But she has recognised that it isn't ideal, and she will heal that.
It's part of the grief journey,
isn't it? It is
it?
part of the grief.
The anger.
And the anger, it's all acceptable. But with all of these emotions, we don't want to hold on to them. We want to let them go. So she will have options. I mean, there's the work that you do, the breath work, the movement, the yoga, the journaling.
I think too, sometimes there is no rhyme or reason, as much as, there's some people, like, of course, you do all the things, like, most of us are going to do our best shot at life, and we could still get cancer. Things can still happen. We can tick all the boxes, and things can still happen because, and I think that's the hardest thing about fertility is that women really hunt for a fault in themselves. And I know heroin addicts who are falling pregnant, alcoholics.
Absolutely.
There's just some things that don't make any sense, and I think it's to remember that sometimes.
Well, and that's one of the things that I cover when I'm doing an online talk, or that I will always say we've all got different genetics, we've all got different microbiome, and we've all got a different life path, and we just have to accept what is. But the reality is this woman is still she is still in pain and has to deal with that pain. And then my other thing would be was, why did she have a fertility journey? And so from a physical point of view, I'd want to clear the physical stagnation that's obviously in there, as well as the emotional.
So would you do needling with her then?
I might just see her for 1 or 2 sessions. I've changed. So it's exactly my 2-year anniversary. So I found this CPD that some of my friends were doing. I said, I'm going to do that too. And
What's
then
CPD?
Oh, sorry, continuous professional development. So I signed up, I did it, and then it was so interesting, very different from anything I've ever done before in Chinese medicine. And then I went to London. And I have not been the same person since. And that's why I've kind of disappeared off Instagram and stuff, because I'm like, okay, I've had to go through so many changes myself, all for the better. And I had 1 treatment a day from the teacher in a room with 50 people.
Oh, was this the acupuncture you're talking about?
Yeah, in Regent Street. So it's exactly 2 years ago today. And now that's the style of acupuncture that I do on people. And the feedback is always like, I feel like myself again. I haven't felt like this in years. And they think of the things that used to annoy them, and they're like, it doesn't annoy me anymore.
Yeah.
So we've discharged the emotion from it, and I just love that. But I need to I'm in the middle of figuring out how to change how I work so I can do more of those kind of appointments.
Yeah, and offer that service because it's so needed. There's different healing modalities and I think it's just finding the one for you that connects with you, right? For this woman as well.
Absolutely. And I mean, it is what I do is it's kind of a shortcut. But what sometimes it's needed to do is it then gets you to the place where you can do all the other work so that they can get to the next stage.
Yeah, definitely. Why might my period be lasting for 14 days?
Well, she might have a fibroid. She should. I hope that she will go and see a medical professional about that and insist on a scan of some sort, and not allow anybody to dismiss her with the pill. I'd love to know what age she is, or the pill, or just say, oh, it's normal and don't worry about it. There's a lot of blood loss there, so she must be exhausted, she'll have anemia, she must be out of fortune if she's using pads or tampons. But from a Chinese medicine point of view, when somebody is bleeding too much, we will say the blood might be too hot.
Okay.
Or they have a really weak digestive system, because the strong digestive system holds everything in the right place.
Okay.
I know that's very different for people. Or there's stagnation there, like a fibroid, and the blood is...
What's a fibroid?
A fibroid is a non-cancerous tumour.
Okay, yeah.
In the womb. And in Western medicine, it's a fibroid, that's what it is. But in Chinese medicine, we would say it's congealed blood and phlegm that's hardened within the womb.
What are the key supplements to treat inflammatory PCOS?
Inflammatory PCOS?
Yeah.
So the biggest part of treating PCOS is what you eat. Diet and lifestyle. Basically what they'll need is they will need lots of veg. Sweet potato is their carb. Sweet potato. Probably avoid the pasta and the rice, at least for a little while anyway. And good quality animal food products. That's the starting point. Maybe she's already doing that. They need to really exercise, but not like hard cardio. So then if she has done all that, then I would intervene with herbal medicine. See, the thing about supplements is sometimes supplements mask underlying problems. Sometimes they do nothing.
And what came to my mind when I got the message was a fixing energy to it.
But I can't blame people because they're just pushed. They're pushed in people's faces, and it's very difficult. And we still don't understand that the goal should always be to optimize. But if she's doing all the right things, then that's somebody I might work a little bit with herbs and clear out if anything needs cleared out or is imbalanced. And then, and only then, when I would be happy that she's done everything she can do, it is in good health, then you would take supplements.
Well, we are going to get booted out of this studio, but we could talk all day. But thank you so much, Maria, for sharing all your wealth of knowledge.
Thank you, Carla, for having me here. And thank you if you're still listening, because I know we kept jumping from place to place. And I know that sometimes it's a little bit difficult to explain the Chinese medicine.
I will link all the ways you can work with Maria below. Maria's starting a new online studio and online courses, so everybody can access more of her, which is great. So thank you so much for listening. I have been Carla McGreevy on the Wise Yourself Up podcast with Maria Rafferty. Thank you so much for listening, and please share, leave a comment and like if you enjoyed.